Now we're going to take a look at the Lindhaus Aria Elite. This one was acquired also on OfferUp from a different collector by the name of Natalie, or Natalie, something like that. But you know, it was missing a foot pedal, and they come in a pack of 2, so those are both replaced. They have a flat cord to them, which is really weird. This dusting brush is on back order yet, so I don't have that. And if you've done research on the Aria, you've probably heard that they are prone to problematic hoses. Well, this one was no exception, unfortunately. And I can't completely tell if this one is tapered or not. Because I know they used to come with a black tapered hose, and I thought all the gray ones were supposed to be a consistent size throughout. But this one seems like it might have it, but it's just much smaller. And then, like a lot of European vacuums, it has a cord that runs inside of the hose to run its power through. And these would generally turn the machine on from the hose. You would have to have the main power switch active, and then you could turn it back to the single bar to turn just the machine on. Otherwise, the dual bars for both the machine and the power nozzle. But these hoses were very prone to shorts in them, and it's kind of a frustrating issue, because especially with the Aria Platinum, because the Aria Platinum, from what I remember, defaults to like the lowest speed when it started up. And you would have to sit there and hold down the button to get back to whatever speed whenever the short occurred. Now, this is actually like the maybe 4th or 5th Aria I've owned. The last one was an unwanted customer repair. She didn't want to put the money into it, so I wasn't working there at the time, and this person calls me up and they're like, "Hey, do you want this Aria? We're not going to do anything with it." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, sure." So I had a junk model, nothing into it, so I decided to kind of work with it, and I learned a few things about them. Namely, that this is actually a piece of wiring from inside the handle here, and this is a piece of wiring that would trigger the machine to run, and it has these little things in here. I think they're rectifiers. They essentially turn this wire into like a one-way. So the electricity can only move in one direction. And now I could be wrong, but what I think is it has electricity coming from the circuit board, and then it feeds it into the neutral wire. And it doesn't want any feedback into that circuit board, so it's feeding it through one way, so it doesn't mess with it. So, just to demonstrate this, we're going to hook this clamp onto this end here, although it's a little bit harder to do one-handed. And if we touch this to here, we won't get anything, because the electricity does not flow this way. But if we reverse this, clamp this onto here, touch it here, then we see it light up, because the electricity can flow that way. So it's like, just looking at that, what I did in this machine, because it had that short, but with the Elite it's not quite as big a problem, because, you know, you don't have a little touch button like setting thing that'll default. It will go back to whatever speed it was at. Now, the nice thing about the Elite is if you set it to 1200 watts, it also acts as kind of an override. So, I mean, you could just leave it on 1200 watts and it wouldn't shut down. And part of the reason for that override is they can double as a blower. So, like, if we take the filter out of here, the hole behind that will be the right size to plug this into. So, it's part of the reason for that. But I think I'll show you guys what I did with this. Alright, so here we can see the wires. So I just completely cut the green one out, which is the one that signals, you know, to turn on the machine from the handle. So I put a piece of this little, I put a piece of the rectifier in here so that the electricity only flows, you know, from the green into the neutral wire. And then I just made a kind of a three-way, or a two, no, it would be a, yeah. Because, I mean, obviously you still have to have the neutral going to the center here for the power nozzle to run. So the black wire was completely left alone because it wasn't necessary to mess with it. But yeah, we bypassed the green wire here. So you can no longer shut the machine off from the handle. You know, which I wouldn't recommend doing this, especially, you know, if your machine is still covered under a warranty, you know, because you're going to avoid that. But, you know, if you're a person who is more skilled with these types of things and you're interested in saving, you know, like $160 on a hose, well, it's not a bad idea then, unless you really want that convenience of being able to turn the machine on and off from the hose handle. And just like some other European design machines, we have all caster wheels. So, you know, we can move side to side, which is kind of nice. The bag setup in here is a little bit weird. Because we just have a, you know, we don't really have a stub that connects into this until the hose is inserted into it. That's what actually acts as the, you know, kind of locking mechanism into the bag. I've never really cared for that, you know. I'd rather have a connection between the two of them, you know, that's a little bit more substantial between the machine and the bag itself. And as we can see, you know, HEPA bag, that's standard for these. You know, I mean, it's not like you're going to run these things, you know, without pre-motor filter. That's just a cut-to-fit replacement. And then, of course, we have the HEPA on the back. You know, you're not going to really run the machine like this, except to possibly use it as a blower. So, I mean, it doesn't really have a consequence, but I just don't like the idea of that, you know, that it has to have the hose on here in order to, you know, seal that bag, essentially. But, yeah, I think we've had enough of an overview on this. Of course, I've got the power nozzle for it, and, yep, let's move on. So, just to kind of shorten things down, we're just going to test the high-speed mode, the 1200 watts. So we'll start this off with just the machine, and then we'll turn on the power nozzle. We'll get our electrical ratings, and then we'll move on to the flow testing. Right about where it should be. Now we'll turn on the power nozzle. And a nice little thing about the Aria, kind of like a SIBO air belt, it has vents around the side here. Of course, most of the air is going to come out right around the back. This is not a cloth material, it's just a rubber bumper. It's pretty quiet. As low as it goes. Single stage Rotafil built motor in here, which is the parent company of Lindhaus. So we'll take the airflow at the base here. I don't know if this will work. Not entirely. And now we'll take the flow at the end of the hose, which it's got a nice length hose to it. Seems to be what we're getting. Now for suction. Oh, we got a little bit of leakage. Interesting little thing about it is this appears to be about the same wand used on like a Wesselworks Direct Connect. The only difference is it has a hole down here instead of having like a button lock. Because on Lindhaus's it's reversed for these anyway. So we'll actually have the button lock inside the power nozzle. So in theory, it should be entirely possible to connect a Wesselworks Direct Connect to one of these. You just have to sub the wand out and yeah. But, you know, I like their power heads just fine. I think they're a pretty good performer. Anyways, let's get back to the testing. Seem to be holding. Now for wand suction, we have lost a little bit. Power nozzle's off. Seems to be as high as we'll probably get from it. So let's do the suction. Not terrible. I would say it's a little bit above average. Well, let's turn on the nozzle. We do not seem to be moving. You know, one thing I can say for sure about these machines is they're quirky. I mean, you know, they definitely have a little bit of an unusual setup, having the hose on the front. That's really not seen too much anymore. That flat cord is weird. You know, the side vents. And, you know, it's definitely not a bad machine. I actually like it.